All right, so anytime people talk about political philosophy, even today, I know there's a massive growing movement for anarchism, but nobody seems to talk about it, or it's not in anybody's conscious minds, even though some people gravitate towards it. But for the majority of what I see on the internet, it's always about Democrat, Republican, and liberals and libertarianism. I don't know why nobody really talks about anarchism. Maybe it's banned from the internet, but I want to emphasize that people should be talking about anarchism more. And here's an introduction to the basic anarchism types. If you didn't know, as I just showed you, AI wants to show you 10 types. There's a whole bunch of different variable types that we get into nuanced, like niche things, but these are basically the basic ones. And although I don't know exactly the specific details of each of these, based on the general definitions, I can decipher through which ones would work and which ones would not. And stick around to the end. I will tell you the one that I've believed for practically the past 14 years. And today is a brand new day to introduce the definition of what I believe is the only philosophical, political thought on earth. And I don't like to use that word political. I'm just using that in the context because really true anarchism is apolitical. That's why it's called anarchism. It's without politics. And so let's start. So anarcho-communism advocates for a stateless, classless society with collective ownership and distribution based on need. So collective ownership, like as a massive group, that's where I see a problem. I will tell you about what I believe, but I do not believe that it should be a large collective group where everyone is equal I believe in egalitarianism, which is like fairness, but not equal. Equal meaning as if a state or like humanity, as if humanity should be working in a system that's unanimously collective. And I don't believe that it should be a global system that's based on globalness, because I do believe in a global system that's just a tool and not the foundation of a group, if that makes sense. And so anarcho-syndicalism focuses on workers' self-management through labor unions as the basis for a post-state society. So right off the bat, this is very vague, and workers, having just working as the fundamental foundation of humanity is quite absurd, because humans have a much deeper and richer life than just working. And especially when it has to be based around ethics, there's no specific what type of work. And even if it is an ethical type of work, again, it should not be a vast collective. And so that doesn't work. Anarchism, collectivism, supports collective ownership of the means of production with the remuneration based on labor contribution. That basically sounds like a combination between 1 and 2, communism and syndicalism. And the means of production. See, the thing about production is that would infer sources, not resources. Sources are things that destroy the world and cannot be replaced. Resources are things that continually produce forever, basically. And so with that, like, production is very vague, and even having that as the foundation of humanity is ridiculous. Again, the biology and like all the, there's so many different needs that humans have that just basing it off products is insane. And then, all right, number 4, mutualism. This is part of the one that I believe. It doesn't have a completeness to it. So what it happens is promotes a free market economy without capitalism, where workers exchange goods and services through mutual credit. So I don't really think it's necessary to put the word workers in there. You could just say people exchange goods and services. And as you can see, goods and services is very vague. So although anarchism is mutual inherently, I'd say mutualism would be a general category that does work, but it needs a amendment to it, like a prefix. So mutualism isn't inherently ethical. It can be good or bad. You can work for Dr. Evil. Well, see, mutualism is inherently good, but just the way that society connotates it, or the way that society uses it in its definition, I don't think is grammatically correct. So like when people think of mutualism, like mutual could be like everyone agrees to like commit a genocide against one group of people. That's mutual. See, it doesn't really end up being anarchism. So it depends. And if you want to use the word to its true nature, I'd say mutualism does work. And so 5, individualist anarchism emphasizes personal autonomy, voluntary association, and opposition to all forms of coercive authority. So, yes, but individualist anarchism doesn't necessarily include like family dynamics. Like if you have a 3-year-old, that 3-year-old doesn't really have personal autonomy because that 3-year-old's brain hasn't developed fully. Individualist is kind of correct, although it's not independent, it's interdependent. And I think this definition leans much more on independence. And so it's everyone for themselves instead of mutually working together as the foundation. And so that's, although in my belief, I'll go into that later, but in my belief, individualist anarchism is somewhat emphasized in a family type tribal way. And so green anarchism or eco-anarchism integrates ecological concerns with anarchist principles opposing industrial society and environmental destruction. So it does oppose industrial society, but it doesn't necessarily say civilization in its entirety. And also it just basically talks about ecological as if nature is the foundation and humanity is not. Perhaps it could include humanity, but here's the thing, natural is not always ethical. I believe that the word natural has been hijacked and it is actually ethical, but the way that everyone associates with the word natural, they believe so many things. The word natural has been very distorted and convoluted in the layman's terms that it kind of needs a renaissance. That word needs a renaissance. So I do personally believe that, ecologically natural things are good, but even nature is perverted too. And so nature, see, that's where so many people don't understand, is that animals are making mistakes too. And so animals need to be held accountable. And so the true nature hasn't really even been fully visualized or manifested around the globe yet. So we actually haven't had that situation exist. So we can't really say that natural is even, like, ecological is even viable right now. And so it's very general as well. It's just having that be the basis of everything, instead of, like, of course humans are egoistical inherently, so it has to be an egocentric model and not one that values other species higher than humans. Not that it's a scale of a competition, but they are putting it as if humans are lesser than the environment. That's what I'm inferring. They could argue either way, but yeah. So 6 is just incomplete and perhaps leading down a different path. Although it's not far off. 7, anarcho-feminism. Combine anarchism with feminism, arguing that patriarchy is a form of hierarchy to be dismantled alongside the state. Well, matriarchy isn't the answer either. Then that's unfair. So I don't agree with 7. Post-left anarchism rejects traditional leftist let me go back to 7 real quick. I don't mean that men and women are exactly the same. They're obviously two different sexes with two different valuable skill sets and attributes. So, but they need to be in fairness. So I just want to clarify that. All right, 8, post-left anarchism rejects traditional leftist organizing, favoring individual rebellion, spontaneity, and critique of ideology. Well, individual rebellion, spontaneity, these things could be very unethical. Like, you could have one person wanting to just spontaneously do something that ultimately affects many other lives, whether other animals or humans. And so there's so many ways that this could end up leaving anarchism, so it's not true anarchism. Number 9, anarcho-primitivism. This is another one, like mutual anarchism, that I agree with, but primitivism is a vague term that could be good or bad. I believe that primitivism is good, but it depends on the type of primitivism. So there's many other types of primitivism that are not ethical. So this one inherently all alone does not work. But with mutualism, it's got a better shot. And so number 10, insurrectionary anarchism focuses on immediate, often militant, direct action and revolt rather than gradual organizing or mass movements. Well, that's just basically a tactic. That's just a tactic to find the solution to anarchism. That's not an end goal. Like militant direct action, that inherently implies that things are combative and competitive, which is not anarchism. That one can be immediately dismissed. And there's another one that I've always believed, that I've always known about, that should be on this list, which is anarcho-capitalism and anarcho-minimalism. So let me introduce number 11 and 12 to you, because I thought these two were very basic, general ones. Anarcho-capitalism is basically non-government, but with means of capital and chasing like the American dream, just without like taxes and without like the judicial system or whatever. So, the problem with that is that having just numbers as the foundation of society, whether that's USD or the yen or cryptocurrency, all of those, first off, have proven to not be ultimately anarchistic, but also that certainly should not be the foundation of humanity, of life. There's very more biological things and needs that humans have that should be much more foundational than this very vain or very surface level idea. And then minimalistic anarchism. Minimalistic anarchism, I believe, is a stage into the transition to the anarchism that I believe. But I do not believe it is inherently important. Minimalistic anarchism is very limited government. It's basically libertarianism. So I'll leave it at that. Here's what I believe. And here's the new term I'm coining. Biofruitanic anarchism, or anarcho-biofruitanism. So, bio refers to all life. What did I just say? Biofruitanism? Well, the fruit part is just eating nothing except fruit. And bio is all life eating nothing except fruit. This is very general, but there's actually some species that I don't believe should eat fruit, like detritivores. And so it can be a little more nuanced, but this basically covers like 95% of everything. And the word bio is referring to all species. And biomutual. The mutual part is that it's mutual, agreed upon. And the fruitanic part implies veganism, because fruitarianism or frutivorism, ethical frutivorism, is basically a type of veganism. So that's already implied. And that's an ethical framework, a basis that includes basically mutual symbiotic reciprocalism, because anarchism is in the word anarcho, which refers to like mutualistic and symbiotic and reciprocal in its implied meaning. And what I believe is the foundation to all life is family tribes living in tropical fruit forests that are interdependent with other fruit forests. And there is technology that is involved in this global system. And the global system is just a tool. It's this thing that people use as a tool for cosmic exploration, is the primary form for this. Because there's really not many things in this world inherently that requires a global mutual system. Pretty much humans can thrive in their tribal local units. And the foundation is based on the consensus process, where emotion or a notion is not continued forward until all parties agree. And so yeah, that's it. Thanks.